What's up, y'all? Welcome to Three Brothers and a Shot of Milk. And today, we're talking The Sandman. Netflix's Sandman. What a freaking show, man. What a freaking show. First, we're going to go into our spoiler-free review, and then we will do our deep dive. Here's a brief synopsis. Upon escaping after decades of imprisonment by a mortal wizard, Dream, the personification of dreams, sets about to reclaim his lost equipment. That is a little brief synopsis given to us by IMDb. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts, your spoiler free thoughts on Sandman? The Sandman.
I would say for a comic book that was largely thought to be impossible to adapt, actually turned out to be one of the most faithful adaptations of any comic book brought to the screen, large or small. And it's not without its flaws. It's definitely has some changes. But I think if you're a fan of the Sandman series, it's hard not to enjoy this content. And I think if you're not a fan of the Sandman series, it's still just fun content. Um, Neil Gaiman had a very involved hand in adapting this, and if you, well, I won't get into any of the other stuff. So that's my spoil free. I think it's pretty faithful content and adapted pretty well.
Mm, mm. For me, not to get into spoiler territory, but I feel like the series was kind of split in two. The first half was one story, the second half was the second story.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the series, but the first half, that really hit me in the sweet spot. I really enjoyed the first half of the series. I love the tone, I love the feel of it. I am not a Sandman reader. I've never read Sandman. Honestly, I know nothing about the Sandman. So I was going into this completely open, and I had a freaking good time, man. Even though I didn't, the second half didn't hit my sweet spot, it was still a good freaking watch. I thought the actors were great. I thought the what they were able to imagine, and this is, and guys, we're so used to watching stuff at home. This is still a TV-ish budget. This is not, this is not, doesn't have Avatar money, and what they were able to accomplish and visualize, I thought it was pretty dope. Rich, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, I also never read the comic, but I listened to the book, the audio book, and it pretty much is. I mean, like Jack said, there was a few changes here and there. They moved a few things up, a couple things up in the timeline and how it actually unfolds. Other than that, it was true to the content for the most part. All in all,
Mm.
it was pretty true, and it was pretty good to watch it all like in on the screen rather than imagining in my head how someone else visualized how it would be. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Like, and yeah, like Lauren said, there's like two parts of it, but that's how pretty much the story was. It was like when he got captured, and then one thing, and then another thing, another thing. But yeah, it was definitely two tones to it, and it was dope. I was digging both tones.
Yeah, man. We'll just jump right in. It's funny you said what you said, Jack, that it is super faithful, because there's a lot of Sandman purists, similar to the Sandbox moment, who did not like some of the changes. They did not like that some of the characters were black, and they did not like that Joanna Constantine
Yes.
Yeah,
was not John
But
Constantine.
but there's a reason why they did that. So in the series, in the book, John Constantine is in it, and a bunch. I'm sorry, a bunch of DC characters are actually in the Sandman comic book
Mm-hmm.
because Sandman is DC property, and any comic book usually gets a little more mileage when you can put in some of those supporting characters. The problem with getting John Constantine in the content was rights.
They already,
And
yeah, they had plans for him, and yeah, they
exactly.
had to
So
pay for those rights. Yeah.
right. So it was a conflict of interest. And so they felt like it was an opportunity to use Joanna Constantine instead of John Constantine, but let it be the same character essentially.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a problem with it. I was a little I did a fun I thought, oh, that's odd for a moment, but then I got it. I understood why they did it.
Yeah, and Joanna Constantine is in the book. She's John Constantine's ancestor, and that's in one episode when we're in the past we meet her,
Yeah,
and exactly what you said, Jack. I can empathize if I was a freaking Sandman purist. If I love the comics and love Constantine, I can see how that would really rub somebody the wrong way. Um,
possibly. But
uh,
Constantine, the content wasn't about Constantine even in the comic. So the
Right.
Sandman series we watched is the first 16 comics of the Sandman comic book adapted to screen. So only the first 16 episodes that we're even seeing adapted. There were some big changes. One big change, I would think, if you're a purist, is Sandman's look. In the comic book, he is as white as a sheet of paper, and his eyes are actually stars.
Yeah.
He has like a
oh
constellation
wow,
in his eyes. And what's funny is if you watch any of the behind the scenes stuff, they talk about how they tried all those things. They CGI'd star effects over his eyes that looked cheesy.
Hmm.
They did contacts, which didn't read well on camera, and they did another effect which ultimately didn't work. And it was Neil Gaiman who said, I want to see the actor's eyes after seeing. Look, I'm glad we tested it, but his eyes are conveying more motion and more truth and more range than any of these effects. So I'd rather just see his eyes at this point.
yeah,
And the other thing is they actually did him in like a starch white makeup for some test.
Hmm.
And they said that felt weird on camera also because in the scenes where he's supposed to be going through time, just engaging with people, it looked too weird. Where it
some
worked
Yeah.
on the
stuff works
page,
on the page. Yeah, it works on the
yes,
page. Not everything translates well. And he was pretty white to me. I mean,
he was pretty pale. I call him
Yeah.
pale.
he
Yeah,
still was pale. He still
yeah,
was.
yeah.
Yeah,
So to me that goes back to this was a very faithful adaptation where it wasn't from a lack of concern. I mean, Gaiman was there and they were testing everything. You know, they rearranged some plot stuff. A big one was the Corinthian,
Mm.
where Corinthian doesn't come on in the comics. It doesn't come till way later in the story, but they dropped him right in the first episode. And when you look at how the Corinthian ends up being the overall, you know, antagonist for Sandman for the series, I instantly understood why they moved him, and it actually gave a through line for the whole series.
yeah. I feel, and we see this with Robert Kirkman on The Walking Dead and Invincible, where when they're involved, they're making changes, and they're like, if I got a chance to go back and rewrite a draft, I play with it. Like he said on The Walking Dead in the comic, he regretted cutting Rick's hand off. That's why in the series it
Hmm.
doesn't happen. He's like, if I can go back, I would never have done that. And then in
Oh, okay.
Invincible, when he's like, I'm getting to go back to the material, so you're gonna play with it a little bit. He said I wrote this when I was 25.
Yeah,
Like, why would
Mm.
I keep it the same?
Yeah.
So it's really cool that I'm glad you said that, Jack. This isn't just Netflix and people doing the Hollywood thing. No, he's right there going, guys, I was able to write emotion in my words, but I need his eyes for the visual manifestation of my work. I need to see into his eyes. It works on the
yeah.
page, but I need his eyes. I
And there are
love
like
that.
a handful of moments in the content where you see his eyes look almost vampire esque, or they reflect like a cat in the night.
Yeah.
You know, there's some
Hmm.
shots where you see that, and that's what they were trying to do. They're trying to show the cosmic element of him.
Yeah, I dug it, man. So we jump right in, and we're with Sandman. We're with this guy. I forgot his name, but basically, let me look him up. Daddy Lannister from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
That's what I call him, Daddy Lannister.
What a
But
jerk, man.
he plays
Yeah.
wonderful jerks.
He
He's
does.
really good at playing like
Definitely
terrible
does.
people. Um, Roth. What's his name?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. You know his name because you watched the series. If you're in spoiler territory, basically, his son died in war, and he's like, I'm going to use what I have to summon death. If I can get death in my power, if I have death, I can get her or him to bring my son back to life. But
Charles
also,
Dance.
say it again.
Charles Dance plays the
Charles
father.
Dance. But
Yeah.
what's the character's name?
Uh,
Something with an R.
Roderick Burgess.
Roderick Burgess, yes. So they basically wants to bring death to him and get death to submit and give him what he wants, but he doesn't get death. He gets Dream instead. He gets Sandman instead, And basically, he's like, I'm going to lock you here. I have your totems. I have your tools. You don't have any power. I'm going to lock you here. You're in that kind of circle, that little like
Chalk
witchcraft,
circle.
whatever. Yes, the
Yeah.
circle. And he's like, you're going to stay here. And what I love about this, man, because when you usually have people in these elements, the urgency is played up. But they were like, no, we're going to play the urgency down. This dude's immortal. He's just going to wait.
Yeah.
And say nothing. And you literally see time go by. People get older. Uh, Homeboy's son, what's his? I forgot his name. You just said it. Roth. What is his name? Burgess's son. He has a heart for this dude that's captured, and he wants to free him, but also is under his father's, oppression, if you will. And we see Dream just playing the waiting game, not speaking for like 100 years.
Over
And we have
100 years.
over
In the series, it's over 100 years. It's not quite as long in the comic. But what's nice about all that time passage is almost instantly, the second he's locked up and removed, almost instantly you have a worldwide epidemic that just affects people. Their sleep schedules are off. Some people can't wake up from their dreaming. Some people don't sleep at all now. Like the whole world is in disarray because the guy who affects your sleepings gone. Which was, I kind of love that element
and
of it.
you know what's crazy about that? It's historically accurate. In the year 1917 to 1928 in the UK and in other parts of the world, people suffered diverse dream disorders. The symptoms were high fever, headache, uh, they were lethargic, sore throat, double vision, delayed physical and mental response, sleep inversion, and even catatonia.
Catatonic.
Yeah, they were catatonic. If the case was severe enough, patients might enter a coma-like state. It was the first named, what they call it, encephalitis lethargia in 1917. So like that actually happened in a period in time. And Neil Gaiman was like, that's interesting. I wonder why that
Dream took a
happened.
holiday.
Dream
Yeah.
took a freaking holiday. So all that's going around the world instantly. And then you have Corinthian. Well, the reason why Dream comes into the world in the first place is to find his renegade nightmare. So
Yes.
Dream creates dreams and nightmares, and even Renegade Nightmare Corinthian just having a freaking field day on people. And Dream goes to capture him, but then immediately gets sucked into where he is captured. Guys, this first half is my freaking jam. This feels like a Tim Burton gothic. I love everything about this. I love Dream's voiceover, dude. The way he voices
Yeah.
over. And his voice is, I don't know what they put on it. It's so rich. It's otherworldly. The quality they put on his voice. I was blown away by the first episode and the first half. Completely blown away.
Yeah. The first episode hooked me so hard, I binged the whole series in 2 sittings. Well, I binged I think 6 or 7 episodes and then I finished it the next day.
Dude,
Mhm.
it's
Right.
so good. It's
Yeah.
so good.
I mean, I pretty much did the same. Not gonna lie, maybe like 3 days. But yeah, it would from the tone of it from the book on into this, it was pretty much the same. It matched it the whole way. Like I said, there was a few changes. It wasn't 100 years. It was like maybe like a few generations.
Yeah.
But yeah, but other than that, it was dope. There was a couple of things. What was it? When he went to go get his ruby back, there was a
Mhm.
whole deal with that, and that was like very graphic, but they didn't really capture all that because that was
Oh, it's
like,
more graphic than what they showed us.
yeah, it was like it wasn't just what was happening in that and
Diner.
I forgot about I forgot if they were talking on the newscast, but there was definitely more going. It was like a worldwide thing that
No,
was
they were
It
happening.
was.
talking on the. It was in the background. So
Okay,
if you listen to it, you would hear them talking about
Yeah,
yeah,
I was wishing that was a little
ridiculousness.
more. I was hoping that was a little more prominent, but you had this sense of a global impending doom
yeah,
faintly echoed on the news reports the entire
I
time they
like
were
that it
in it.
was subtle because it makes you go back. It's like they were like everything is the. I don't mind it being subtle.
I
Mm.
You know.
guess.
There was this one story in the book where there was one part when in the newscast they were talking. It was a kid show pretty much, and it was going through the kid show, and la di da di da, and then people started killing each other in the kid show. It was pretty wild. I was like, I had to go back in the book. I was like, wait, what did I just hear? Like, what is going on right now? But no, there was a lot of stuff. There was also the touch when he went to hell. He walked past one of his lovers, was a African woman.
Yeah.
And what I liked about that, they talked about in the book, when he appears, depends on where he's worshipped, he appears how they see him,
Mm.
pretty much.
That's
So
why
when
he
he
looked. That's why he looked different when she was looking at him.
right,
Yeah.
so depending on who you are and how you worshiped him, and how how he looked to you is how he'll change his
that
form
would have
in
been
your
fun
eyes.
to have.
Well, I thought that was I understood it in the show, but it was
Mhm.
odd in the series because its context isn't actually given. Like we don't know why he shifted in that moment she was looking at him into an African American guy,
Well,
you know?
because the guy who was the demon that was bringing him to see Satan, Lucifer,
Yeah.
was pretty much purposely brought him to her because
Totally
he was
understood
there
that.
because of him.
What I'm saying is
She was there because of him.
the
But
the justification for Dream to be a shapeshifter in that moment
mm,
on any level uh isn't in the content for us to understand why his form changed in that moment.
I
Yeah,
mean, I just took it as, because again they kind of explain a little bit more in the book, but I just took it as kind of like an involuntary thing. It's just he just changes to suit what the people visualize him
Right.
as.
But we never see it before that, and we never see it after that, is what I
that
mean.
and
Yeah.
that's my main. It's not a big hang up. I guess it could. I kind of. That's my main hang up with the series. Is in the beginning it was fine, but towards the end I'm like, I don't know any more about your world really. Like,
Right.
so you have realms, but there is a hell and there is a Lucifer, and I guess there is a heaven and there is a God. Like by the end of the series, I at least want to know how all these elements work with each other,
Mm,
and I really didn't. I didn't understand the sibling dynamics. I didn't really
Mm-hmm.
understand what does one have to gain from trying to take the other one down. I don't.
yeah.
I didn't understand it. And by the end, in the beginning, I didn't mind. Like, just give me little seeds as we go. We'll figure it out. So that was by the end of the series, I was like, I don't know nothing about your
Well, it
world.
also started feeling a little more. I mean, it still had a arc the whole time, but it felt a little more episodic once the collecting his tools section of the content was done.
Mm,
Which also
Well,
and that's when the content kind of took an odd dip, trying to reimagine itself. After he's got his tools, then we have him on the park bench being all emo, going, "I don't know what to do anymore. Been doing this
yeah,
forever. Yada yada, this and that." And this is also where the series diverged from the comics again. They started interlapping storylines instead of they're separated in the comic. But I like the storylines that are in there with the guy who he meets every 100 years. I
yeah.
that
really,
well, that I thought that was a brilliant episode because it was like episode 1 through 5 is an arc.
mhm,
Episode 6 is kind of like it's intermission. Where it doesn't pull any story forward. Then the next ones we're dealing with the vortex. So it's like
exactly,
that was a nice middle like
transition. And that's what it
transition.
felt like. And you could almost have the problem for me when something's so clear. I see like this clock ticking because I know it has to resolve itself at a certain point. And it started doing that. He had to get the sand. Now he's got to get the mask. Then he's got to get the rock. And each one of these things are going to be an episode. And so you're like, you kind of already know how the first 4 episodes are. And it deviates a little bit, but that's the general scenario, right? I thought when he got the crystal and he was dealing with what's the character's
The
name?
diner,
The doc. Dr. Destiny
Yeah.
Dr.
was
Destiny,
the
yeah.
kid's name.
Yeah.
Dr. Destiny is the guy who ends up getting the crystal, right? That's what he goes by in the comics. Like that could have been
That could be 10 episodes. That whole arc could have been a whole season.
exactly like that was climactic enough. That could have been the whole thing.
And really see the world fall apart.
Well, and season 2 could have been expanding on it. But what they did is they resolved it, and then they started expanding with what episodes they had left in the season. And it was nice to see the world, you know.
I want to go back a bit to we see that Dr. Destiny as no, not him, the son of the dude who kidnapped him has kind of heart of gold. We see the Raven try to help him, which I assume there's been probably other failed attempts that we didn't see. Raven gets brutally shot,
blasted.
Dream gets out. When he goes to hell and he has a war with Lucifer, and they're kind of like playing like mental chess.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of that improv game we used to do.
The one up game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You slowly have to one up the guy or girl until they can't go anymore. That's what it reminded me of.
I drive a car. Oh yeah, I'm in a plane. Oh yeah, I'm in a spaceship. Oh yeah, and then it just keeps going. But why was hope the thing that won? Because he says, "I am hope," and it almost broke Lucifer, and it was a beautiful moment. But I was like, why? What?
Lucifer, played by Brienne of Tarth.
Excellent. Which probably got a lot of people angry too. Like everybody's angry. Everybody's angry. But why was hope? What do you guys have an opinion about that? Like, why was hope the thing? That
To me, it seemed no one can really argue it thematically, right? You're like all of Star Wars is based off of it. All content where good rises above evil is always based on hope and light and dark. To me, it just felt like the basis thing. I was wondering where he was going to go with it. I was like, how do you pull this one off? And then when he said hope, I did a little bit of eye roll, but you also can't defend against it. You're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, everyone like kind of leans on hope or stuff. Like, you know,
even
things are not going right in your life. I mean, if people in hell believes in hope or whatever, people just believe in hope, then what can't fight it.
Is that it though? Without hope, there's no hell. Because how do you torture people if they don't have some sort of hope? That's where you're able to like.
That could be it.
Imprison.
That's what he said.
He says
that. Yeah.
Hope of heaven, right?
Right.
Well, yeah, a hope of something.
It's interesting. I just thought it was weird that was the thing that stopped
something
turning
close
tracks.
to the lines of how can you have a hell if people don't have hope?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with it. I love the diner was dope, man. I love that episode. It felt they introduced brand new characters that we immediately started to care for and wondered how they're going to fit in this. And then by the end of that episode, it held an interesting question. Is the opposite of truth lie? Destiny believes so. He believed that if you're lying, you can't be truthful. And by the end, Dream was like, no, you got it all wrong. Because he thought if I took away their lies, then they're gonna act how they're supposed to act. And it's like, no, man, no. We speak our hopes, we speak what we want, whether we believe it or not. Hopefully those things come into fruition. It was interesting. The theme they were playing with there. I dug it a lot. I dug the idea of, dude, you don't even understand. You're like so base with it. And then we saw these people literally all kill each other after they slept with each other.
They all slept with each other. Yeah. Like, of course, you're gonna F and you're gonna fight.
That's man. It was so interesting. And then we might have gotten to my favorite episode. I love that death episode, man.
I did too.
Something about her and her performance was so amazing that the way she smiled at them and took their hands. I don't know. This episode hit me in the other ones before this hit me in my comment. I was like, oh, I'm in. This one, like, I'm over here like almost welling up. Like
But the
this
other thing that was
is
so nice about it was we were given a moment where Dream was able to
be human.
confront his sibling who he felt failed him.
Yeah.
Why didn't you
Yeah.
come save me? And
She
by the
didn't
end of the
she didn't answer him, right?
she didn't really
Like
answer
we
it,
missed you. You weren't.
but it was like we knew by the end of it though their bond was so strong it was resolved by the end of the episode, their conflict. Like their
Yeah.
love was actually there.
And it felt like what's 100 years to an immortal? It's like, yeah, I'll
Right.
see
Well,
you in
that's the
30
other thing I
minutes.
kept
Yeah.
wondering about.
I think it was for Dream, not so much he lost time. Well, he did because the world was falling apart, but also like no one thought of me. And that's what I'm like. By the end, I wanted more of what is this dynamic. But Death, I loved just the way she went up to people. And yo, that when they walked into that apartment, that house, and she picked up the baby, I was like, no. And she was like, sorry, little one, but your time is up. And it was so gentle. And the dude who was like on his honeymoon
Yeah.
and was like, no, 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 I need to tell her, I need to give her flight. I'm on my honeymoon. And she's like, and she takes his hand. And she was like, I hated my job until I realized I'm here to serve them. I'm here to take their hand and walk them into that next chat. It was just so sweet. And that dude, Franklin, when she was like, and this is how brilliant the show is. They never tell you she's death,
Yeah.
but you get it. The second
Mhm.
she's like, Franklin, I'll see you soon. He's like, oh yeah, we're going on a date. I'll see you soon. I'm like, it just hit me. And they let it sit. They didn't like spoon feed it. And then in the end, when he's like, oh man, I almost got hit by that car. She's like, almost, huh? It's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, Franklin. And there was something very poignant in this episode where it was like human beings were never concerned with how they're born. Why are they so concerned with death? They had nothing to do with their birth. But we are. It was,
Mhm.
I don't know, it just blew my mind, guys. I'm sorry. This episode blew my mind. It was like if there's an episode you submit for your Emmy as far as like writing is concerned, like submit this joint. I love this
Well,
joint.
and it's the only episode that's in really, really independent of everything around it.
Yeah.
Dude.
You know,
Oh yeah.
it supports it, it builds the relationships, but it's a
And it's
standalone
just that's
thing.
just the first 20 minutes. Then we get into the dude who's like, I don't mind living forever. And then we get into this amazing double play of we just spent the first half of the episode dealing with death. And here we have another this guy saying, I want life all the time.
Right.
And dealing with Dream feeling abandoned and now building this friendship to the point where when he missed an appointment, he has something to say about it. He's like, I missed one because I was captured. I thought that was beautiful. This is beautiful.
Yeah. Well, he said, I'm sorry I'm late. And he called him friend for the first time.
Yeah, he
I
did.
think it's
Yeah.
appropriate
Yeah.
for a friend to
It,
apologize for
did
being
that
late.
not hit you in your feels?
It was
No,
great. They
it did.
wrapped the whole
It
thing
did.
up.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
it
good.
was so good. It
And
was so
then
good.
after this episode is when the content really kind of takes another turn. And that's where I think some things kind of fell apart and lagged for me was the vortex stuff. I could still
Completely.
appreciate it, but I thought they really started trying to world build quickly. But what worked about the first couple episodes was the intimacy of it. Yes,
Well,
it felt cosmic, but it felt
I felt like
intimate.
the second half that it wasn't about Dream. I felt like he was barely in some of the episodes. It was something that he needed to fix, and then by the end he had an emotional revelation. But the episodes weren't about him. We spent so much time setting up brand new characters, and
Yeah.
That's
and,
interesting.
and by this point in the series, I want to follow him. Like I'm with you, but it felt like we're going to show you the problem he needs to fix instead of like dealing with the emotional and mental ramifications of being targeted by your sibling. Like what is it? Desire set this whole thing in motion. Desire is the one that got him captured in 17 whatever in the first place, hoping that eventually he would have to stop the vortex by killing someone he's related to. When why that affects him, I don't know. because basically,
I didn't
got
really understand how they resolved that vortex thing. I mean, I got it because the person who was supposed to be the vortex had
was in the
fallen
sleep.
asleep during the time she was supposed to be the vortex, so it passed down the generations to
It
the
skipped 2
granddaughter.
generations to the great granddaughter.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand what when it was. It kind of actually didn't really make sense to me that it would do that, and then you could just give it back to the other person anyways at the end of it. Like you just transfer
But
the
at this
vortex.
point, I'm like, you just make up. They can make up their it's dreams.
I guess. I guess.
For me, the issue was that it stopped Dream from making a decision. He says, he's like, the beginning of this half, I have to kill the vortex, and by the
Yeah,
end of it, he kills the vortex. Like there
it's
wasn't
true.
like I thought it was
But
going to
they,
be a thing of you find another way. Maybe there's another way because he kept saying we don't know what the vortex is. We don't know why it is. And so maybe you can figure out why it is and she can live. If she can maybe she can create worlds. Maybe there's a reason for her. And I don't and this is probably in the comics so they can't change it. But as just a viewer watching the series, I was like he did what he was going to do in the first episode,
yeah,
which was kill the
Yeah.
vortex.
he's
So
true to his word. So what the problem is?
he's going to kill Corinthian and kill the vortex. So what's his arc in the second half?
That was it.
What do
Oh, you mean all that? I'm not sure. I don't know.
Like he
you
doesn't
mean, like a season
Season
two?
two? Is that what you're
no,
talking?
no. Everything the reason why he was different in the final episode is
Uh-huh.
pretty much everything he went through in the first half of the series. The second half of the series doesn't add to the growth of his character necessarily. He's just kind of like doing things. But he's not like there's not a
Well,
change that
he was
happened.
bringing balance back to his world and Earth in general because of the vortex.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is the second half of the series didn't put our character in a position where he has to continue to change. All those things already happened in the first 5 episodes.
Okay.
So basically,
Well,
in the
the
second 5, he's just doing what he would do. So then what's the point?
well, the other thing that's not happening in the second half of the series is in the first half of the series. There's all these global consequences that were really cool to see happen.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of like my problem with some of these Marvel movies now, where there are these huge events, but they actually have no consequence on it. Anyone else who's not in the series at that point. And so what was refreshing to see this content was everything seemed to actually matter.
Right.
He's
Mm-hmm.
locked up, the world's in disarray. This guy's got the crystal, the world's in disarray. So he is actually constantly fixing these global issues.
I guess they
What's
resolved it with saying like the vortex pulls everything to her. So he interfered with her before it branched beyond her radius. Like it didn't go outside of her parameter yet.
well, the
So
other
it's just
thing that was
affecting.
odd is the series felt oddly limited because Dream is a cosmic creature.
Right.
He's not a being that's bound to Earth per se.
Mm-hmm.
He's a cosmic creature. He even alludes to there being other Earths, other worlds, other dreams, other places. We never really see that, you know. And
Yeah.
so I, I kept hoping for a moment where we saw really just how powerful the guy is. You know, we don't really
I
get a
mean,
moment where he's godlike.
did you get that in the comic? Like in
Yeah,
these 16?
there are certain, like, even images of the comic where you see him kind of drawn against the cosmos, and
Mm-hmm.
he's larger than life, and you know he's almost got the earth in his hand kind
Well,
of feel.
he has the dude in his hand here. They gave us that shot of him
Yeah. Then
having.
when he got the crystal back, well, not really when he got the crystal back, when the crystal was destroyed, that was
That's
kind of that.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I give you
Well,
that.
I would say the second half of this series, it was focused on Rose Walker. So, like all the supernatural elements and in that kind of mysticism that was in the first half, kind of went away in the second half, and it's through her perspective and her point of view.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we went to a whole serial killer convention. I know more about serial killers than I do about these gods.
which was fun. You know,
Yeah,
things I loved about it. I love the librarian.
I love the
Phenomenal in the
librarian.
content.
Yeah.
She brought humanity. I love the pumpkin. The pumpkin character was voiced by Mark Hamill,
Oh wow,
Oh,
which was
okay.
fun.
I needed more.
Hmm.
Him just popping out of nowhere. It was a little bit. It was jarring for me
It
at
was
first,
odd,
and
right?
I
It
wanted
was
more Cain and Abel. Like, where'd
Yeah,
you guys go?
it
it's
was.
so fun.
There should
Like
have been
so
some more
fun.
Cain and Abel.
Like the way they established them, you just know that they're gonna be throughout, and they
Yeah.
Yeah,
disappear halfway
Yeah.
in
through.
the book, he killed Abel. Abel killed Cain. Oh no, Cain killed
Cain killer
Abel like multiple times in the book, like multiple times.
just for
Well,
fun.
Yeah,
we get that. We get that. That I mean, and that's established in the series. It's clearly an ongoing thing.
But I don't know what their point is in this realm. Like, they're here for a reason. Dream has them here for a reason. He didn't create them, so they're here.
Right.
I don't need all the whys. I just need the relationship. I guess they tend the garden. I don't know what they do.
yeah. There was something to that house that they were in charge of. I
I
forgot the
mean,
name of the house, but there was something to that. They
and
were.
he cares enough about them to get them a new gargoyle. So I'm like, well, I want to see this relationship play. Like him and the librarian, like it played out all the way. You got to see their relationship. I missed that with these two guys, and I feel like this is a missed opportunity because they're amazing. Their dynamic
Well,
is amazing.
it is nice how Dream did evolve for someone who's as old as time itself. You know, to see him realize that he was the problem, and even his nightmare didn't have to stay a nightmare, where he kind of redrafted the
Yeah.
female nightmare. You
Well,
know.
it's so hard to talk about this because things I might want to change might be canon, but
Right.
it felt weird for him after all this not to try to find another way not to kill Rose, for it to be Unity who came up with the plan. Like he didn't even think of it. So by
Hmm.
the end of it, it felt like your wisdom. Like she even says, "You're not too bright, are you?" I'm like, this is supposed to be. This is your moment, Dream. This is your moment of, oh man, he's grown, and like everybody else figured it out except
But
him.
we see him do it. Like his compassion for humanity is somewhat limited. You know, we even see that with Constantine's lover. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Constantine's ex in the
That was
comic.
amazing.
In the
Yeah.
comic, it's John Constantine, but it's the same scenario that plays out. You know, it's
Yeah.
John Constantine's ex girlfriend. In this, it's Joanna Constantine's ex girlfriend. But the same equation is Dream kills her at the end of it.
True. But he gives her a dream to be in.
It still kills her.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't. He takes his sand. He's like, I got to take my sand.
Still kills her.
I got to take my sand.
Yeah, she did.
Um,
But what's cool in the comic is Constantine seems far more affected by it than the series allotted Joanna to be affected by it.
okay.
Right? Like John is really walking around with that's one more nightmare for him to incorporate into his already nightmare filled life.
Yeah. Hmm.
What I appreciate about the series is that they allow Joanna Constantine to be reminiscent of John, but not John. They could have easily came up with like just a female version of John, but they didn't. She was like her own character, but
Mm-hmm.
still matched him in a way. I dug it, man. Like I said, the second half, I wanted more of Dream. I thought just following the kids around, I felt like just everything that was mystical kind of slowed down to a dead stop. But I said, okay, I see what you guys are doing. It's deliberate, so I'll go on this journey. The second chapter is on Earth. It's an earthly story, while the other one was more of a, I guess, a bigger supernatural one.
Mm.
But I dug it, man. I dug it. Season 2, I want to know how this world works. I want to know why Desire wants to kill Dream or make Dream submit to his power. I want to know what would have happened if Dream killed Rose Walker, killed someone he's related to, because he said that would have been a thing if you killed your own blood. What would have happened if he did? I want to know all of those things without having to go read the comic book. But I will say the show did make me want to read the comic book. Guys, I'm going to give this bad boy out of 10 for what it is. It was a 7.5 for me, man.
Hmm.
It's kind of hit. There's issues, but it hit.
Okay. I will
Yeah,
give it. I will give it a solid 7. That's what she said. Because yo, it
I'm sorry.
really. I mean, for me, it pretty much stayed to the tone of the comic for the most part, or the tone of the book, I should say. For the most part, there were changes. They did move things around here and there, but for the most part, it stayed true, and I enjoyed the book. So I enjoyed watching this on live screen.
Mm.
yeah. I enjoy the series probably more than I was expecting to. I was hoping that I was gonna like it, and then I really liked it. But I liked it even moments like I particularly like moments where you know Dr. Destiny's just sitting in the back seat with the woman driving the car,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah,
nervous for her, and yet he's not a bad guy, and she's doing what you expect her to do because she's scared. So maybe that's a little cliche, but I understand it. But then he has true character, and he gives her the medallion that's protects you. And I'm sitting there going, these are great little moments, and the whole series is just filled with them. Stephen Fry, who plays the he plays the I forget what's he's like Stephen Fry plays the human manifestation of a garden that goes missing
Oh,
from the
oh
Gilbert.
yeah,
universe.
yeah.
Gilbert, yeah. And you're like, he's just so whimsical and wonderful, and it's hard not to instantly love him,
And when you
you
see the
know?
garden, you're like, yeah,
Yeah,
that
you're like,
is him.
yeah, that's
That
him. That's right.
is him.
That happened in the book.
It's exactly right.
Yeah,
And that's the other
but
thing. Like,
just to kind of, he killed that woman in the book though. There was no amulet. That woman got.
What, Rose?
Yeah, not Rose. The woman
oh,
he caught a ride with.
he did kill her in the book.
Yeah,
Oh.
Well, it
pretty
was nice
dark.
that he didn't in the series because it's a save the cat moment. It makes it harder for us to hate him as an audience member because we see he is after something good,
He is
you
trying to
know?
do. And then when Dream says, I could kill you, but this isn't your fault.
Right.
It was placed in your hands by someone else. It's like they find a way for us to have even Corinthian. We have empathy for Corinthian. He's like, dude, you made me this way, and
Right.
I just want to feel human. Something you never could. Man, what do you give it, Jack? Mm-hmm.
It's a tough one. I I uh I give it an 8.
Ooh,
Mm,
wee! Jack don't
okay.
hand out these numbers for nothing.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I thought the acting was really good. The texture was good. Texture means a lot to me.
Texture was good.
The story was good, and yeah, it deviated from the source material, but it deviated from the source material in ways that I felt actually helped it adapt to the screen.
Yeah.
Like it didn't
Oh yeah.
deviate from the source material because executives were just making arbitrary changes, which happens all the time with content. It felt faithful
And you
watching it.
have the
It
guy
was
involved who
enjoyable.
created it.
Yeah.
You know.
My gripe is I'd like to feel more cosmic. I would have liked to have had a better sense of the endless,
Mm.
his family, and I'm hoping that that's the season 2. I'm a little gun shy because I think it's probably hard to follow up what works so well about this season in a season
Mm-hmm.
2, but I'm optimistic that I'll at least like it.
They pretty much had 2 seasons in one. And the
Yeah.
second half was very different than the first half. We still found it enjoyable. So
Yeah.
just
I mean,
keep
that
doing
says
what
Yeah.
you're
something. I mean,
doing.
listen, the book itself was like 11 hours of listening. So,
They
they
got
chopped it.
content.
Yeah, they got stuff. There was stuff that they didn't put in there. And they definitely dumbed it down. Well, I ain't gonna say dumb it down. They definitely toned it down so it transitioned better for the screen, so everyone can watch it because
So
it
so
was
Sandman's a
graphic.
finished product. It's like finished. It's not like there's still. I know nothing. I'm sorry for you Sandman fans. It's like over and done. It has to be like, or is there more Sandman to
No,
be?
I don't know about the
there's
comic.
more. I mean, it's just DC content, you know.
Yeah,
Is Neil Gaiman writing it still? That I'd be lying if
Okay.
I knew the answer to that. But Jerry Siegel and Joe Schuster haven't been doing Superman in,
For a very long
you
time.
know, yeah,
Fair.
70
Fair.
years at least. So a bunch of different people eventually start picking up this content, doing their own stuff.
Cool.
Neil Gaiman is more like an Alan Moore type, so you
He
know,
might
I
not
mean,
let
but
people
I'll
touch his
say
stuff
Alan
too
Moore's not
much.
doing Watchmen. You know,
Yeah.
the new spin-off Watchmen stuff, that's not Alan Moore.
No, that's all
It's
just
DC
DC.
content.
Yeah. Okay. Well, an 8, a 7.5, and a 7. That brings us to a nice
7.5.
7.5 rating. Wow. This might be the highest rated thing so far on Three Brothers and a Shot of Milk. Well, there you have it, guys. That is our show. That is our show. I hope you enjoyed it. Come back next time, man. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We got videos dropping like every single day. We got unboxings. We got comic Jack showing his $1 million comic book collection. We opening up toys, our debates, everything. Subscribe, tell a friend. We also got a dope podcast that this review is on, but we cover other things like news. I give you guys some dope jokes of the week. They'll knock your
why are you
socks
lying
off.
to these people? Why are you lying to these people?
He gives them something every week.
Man, we're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. We will see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Peace. What's up, y'all? Welcome to Three Brothers and a Shot of Milk. We're talking